As the conclusion of our Sharing the Gospel in Different Settings series, we're privileged to have with us Peter Georgeson, President and CEO of Wells Lutherans for Life. We've been seeing some big changes in our country lately with regard to abortion, and we might wonder, what should a Christian do now? So Peter's going to tell us what we can do and what's already being done.
All right. Thank you very much. I hear I'm on. Can you hear me all the way in the back? Can you hear me beyond? All right. I mean the coffee ladies. Thank you very much for the coffee. Thank you for allowing me to come and for the invitation. Let's begin with prayer. Dear Lord of life, Heavenly Father, you bless us with life every day. You bless us with a sun. You bless us with night to rest. You just shower blessings upon us. And your word says that you shower blessings on the righteous and the unrighteous. You give us each a chance to live a time of grace to get to know you as our Savior here on this earth before we enter eternity, one way or the other. Lord, as we dive into life issues today, specifically around pregnancy, guide us and lead me and help us to understand and activate us. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I don't have really a outline, so you didn't get an outline. Did everybody get the handout? If anybody needs a handout, I'm sure somebody would be happy to hand them out. So I am the director of the Pregnancy Center in Milwaukee. I've been involved there for 20 years, and like John said, there's been a lot of changes over the years. Traditionally, and for a long time, we've been around for 40 years. This is our 40th anniversary as a pregnancy center in Milwaukee. And never mind the assistant walking around. She's actually one of my staff members. She hasn't heard me do a presentation, so she and her husband came to put the pressure on. She said if you aren't going to have any questions, she'll have plenty. So I'm hoping that this will be an interactive communication here. So talk to me. If you have a question or something, raise your hand. I know Sebastian is going to be ready with the clicker. I'm going to be muted, and you're going to be live so the whole world can hear you. So I'm going to be patient in my response. So again, back to the history of what we do as a pregnancy center. We began as an educational arm to help the community understand that abortion was being done, and abortion isn't really a godly thing. Abortion takes the life of a baby, a human. The media tells us that it's way different than that, but we can't pretty much trust the media on things like that. The world wants us to think that it's women's health care or that it's a choice. But for years, and since 1973, Roe v. Wade made it legal through all 9 months of the pregnancy for any reason, really, virtually. Not just in cases of women's health, but it's come down to financial, and we'll talk more about that too. So we started the Pregnancy Center to help women to understand that that little child, that little fetus, a baby in the womb, was a treasured life, something that God put there and that God has this in hand. Whether the baby was conceived knowingly or not, that's still a human being, a child that God created. Along the years, we developed parenting classes. We do post-abortion support as well. So if a woman or a man has been involved in an abortion decision and regrets that, they can come and talk to us. We have counseling. We have biblical training and also non-biblical education for post-abortion healing. And you might go, well, you're a Christian organization. Why would you have non-biblical? Does anybody have an idea why we might have non-biblical support?
You have a non-Christian come to you. You can't use Christian logic with a non-Christian.
Very good. Did you all hear that? Did you hear that online? All right. Yes. We have people who actually call us and say, well, I don't want that biblical stuff. I just want to find healing. Can you help me? So we do. But that doesn't stop there. When we take them through that, we take them further and into the biblical healing. Because we know, as Christians, biblical healing, God's healing, is the only true healing that we can have in a situation like that, or any situation. So we don't try to lie to anybody, we don't trick them, but we will help them, and if they decide to bail out, that's up to them. Much like a woman who comes to our pregnancy center, finds out she's pregnant, and decides, well, thanks for all your advice, but I'm going to have an abortion anyway. It happens. It's very sad, but it happens. So we do post-abortion support. Oh, we do parenting classes, like I said. Just lately, we've grown where sometimes in our parenting classes we have standing room only, which is awesome. We shut down the parenting classes a little bit during 2020, but then we started having them in the parking lot under a tent in the open air so that we could continue doing that because the parents needed our help. They needed the parenting classes, they needed the lessons, they needed the incentive items that they got from those classes. So our parenting classes are incentive courses, so every time they come and if they participate and if they bring their homework from last time, there's numbers of ways that they can gain incentives. And then they can purchase things in our baby boutique with those incentive dollars. Now, some of you have been to our center. Some of you have donated to our center, like baby caps and things. So that's a good thing to continue a relationship with our clients. Why would it be important for us to continue a relationship with our clients? Does anybody have a suggestion? And not Diana or Rose? This is my bride over there, by the way. That's Rose. Does anybody have a suggestion or a thought?
Well, they can refer friends who need that kind of service in the future.
Yes. Yes, they can refer friends. About half of our clients are friend referrals. So that's important for our marketing, but also we have a better opportunity to grow in a relationship with them, to share the gospel, to infuse their lives with Jesus. I was just writing up a story. We have a lady who has been coming to us for years. She has 9 children now. She is Jewish, but she's been coming to our parenting class. And we've heard her saying to her children, because we have childcare during our parenting classes, we've heard her saying, well, what would Jesus want you to do? So she has learned love and compassion, and she's learned about the gospel in our parenting classes. So is she a Christian believer? We don't know. Is she a practicing Jew? That's what she claims. But can she have a seed of faith that is saving faith? She's using, she's there, and we're getting drips of the gospel into her life and her children's lives every time they come. So pray for Jamie. And if you're on our mailing list, you'll see that story coming out in the next several months or so. So parenting classes are important. It just gives us that relationship, the relationship to continue sharing the gospel, which is really why we're there. We're there to save babies and to share the gospel. Mary.
And then also, I know that a lot of the mothers who have come for prenatal help and all that from our agency, then they become members of our churches.
Some of them do.
When the little babies are grown and they're school age, they attend our Wells Church school.
Yes, some of them do. Not a lot of them, some of them. So when a client comes to us, a mom or a dad, if they put on their paperwork that they are a Christian of a certain church, we're not going to try and change them. We're not proselytizing to make them Wells. We just share what we have. In the conversations, they'll find out that there are differences, and we will, we'll talk about those differences. But we aren't going to twist their arms and say, well, I can't even think of a church right now that's not WELS. But that's no good. You can't belong to the Nazarene. They just don't believe in this. You should be a WELS person. We're not going to do that. If they belong to a Bible-believing church, we're just, we're good. There might be some doctrinal issues, but we're not going to try and change their mind. So we intervene right up front for that baby. And over the years, again, things have changed. In 2017, we became medical. We are doing ultrasounds now to help show that mom. So if she comes in with a pregnancy test, finds out she's positive, we can offer her an ultrasound right there, right immediately. She can see the baby. We have a new machine that was donated by the Knights of Columbus, about $32,000 worth of ultrasound technology. The Knights of Columbus, yes, a Catholic group, donated that for us to have. We didn't have to raise the money or take it out of our budget. They gave it to us, and we can now see the baby at 5.5 weeks, which is really important because as soon as a mom finds out she's pregnant, she may be thinking, I've got to get rid of this. If we can show her right away, it used to be 6 to 7 weeks where we needed that window to be able to show an ultrasound. The new machine, the new technology is wonderful. So we are very grateful for the Knights of Columbus for that. Yes?
Find that changes the mind of many of the women?
Yes. Yes, it does. Many of the women. Not all of them. We've had some sad stories too, even if they see the baby on the ultrasound screen. And the exam table is set up so where the exam table is, the sonographer is here working on the monitor. On that wall, where the mom is there's a huge screen television. So she can look away. We can turn it off if she doesn't want to see it, but we want, and the Knights of Columbus paid for the television as well when we first became medical in 2017. We want to make sure that she sees that baby. I'm an adoptive dad, just for full transparency. I'm also a second marriage dad who has 2 stepchildren. My wife and I also sheltered a young lady who, a number of weeks after she moved in, told us she would leave because she was pregnant. And I said, honey, that's what I do. So God kind of gave us a test run on a mentoring home. But the reason I say that is I never had an opportunity to see my baby on an ultrasound. I got the phone call and said, hey, you've got a little girl. And, oh, well, what's her name? Oh, I have to talk to my wife. We have to finalize that name. Well, you better do it before you come to pick her up tomorrow. That was our situation, the adoption. We waited about 5 years from the time we put in for the adoption until she arrived. But when she arrived, we didn't have a pregnancy test. We got a phone call. And that was it. The next day, we had a child. A little bit easier, maybe. The labor pains were a lot longer, 5 years of labor pains, but not quite as probably a lot different. But when we were setting up our ultrasound, I asked one of the models, we had models coming in to be training on the machine, as well as training our sonographers what they're doing. And I asked if one of the models would allow me to come in and get pictures so that I could use them in our newsletters and on our website and things. And one mom did, and I thanked her for that. And I was standing on that side of the exam table and watching the screen and watching everything and taking pictures with my laptop camera. And all of a sudden the sonographer said, oh, we found it, there it is. And I looked at the screen, and here was a little baby doing little kind of jumping jack motions. And I was just like, wow, this is awesome. And the mom knew it. I mean, she knew it wasn't a crisis pregnancy. She knew she wanted this child. It was her third, I think. And she was comfortable with the pictures. She just said, don't take my face, I don't want my mom to see this. But I was so blessed to be able to see that ultrasound. It was just amazing. And it was an active little boy. It was really a treasure for me. So ultrasound, yes, many of them do see that, but some still reject it. They still will leave determined to have an abortion because they've already been convinced that that's what they need to do. And we don't judge. We tell them that if they have trouble, if they have regret or other feelings, they can certainly come back. You know, the door is always open. And some of them do. Some of them do come back. And we have them in our post-abortion program. But some of them will leave and they'll call us and say, you know, I've been thinking and I've changed my mind. When I saw my baby, so it's maybe not always instantaneously. Sometimes it's after a while. We try to keep touch with them, but some of them don't give us the right phone number. They give us a fake phone number, so it's hard to follow up. But intervening for the baby and intervening for the mom. Why would we be intervening for the mom? Does anybody have an idea? More than 60% of abortions are coerced. It's not the mom's idea. It's the mother of the mom, or the boyfriend, or a husband, or grandparents who are pressuring her. So even if she chooses and says she wants to keep that baby, when she leaves and goes home, she's in a vulnerable state. She's in a pressure cooker, perhaps, of people saying, you know, what do you mean they convinced you? What do you mean it's still not a baby, it's a clump of cells. Well, no, I saw the baby. No, it's a clump of cells. It's legal, it's fine, you can have an abortion. So that they're living in that pressure cooker of vulnerability, and many of them change their minds and cave to that coercion. Yes?
I knew somebody that had one years and years and years ago. And she said to me just last year, they convinced me it was nothing but a clot of stuff. She said, if I would have known, I would have never done it.
And that's a lot of the normal reaction. There are stories that I've heard, national stories, you know, there are national speakers. One person that I heard had the abortion. Immediately, she regretted it. And the sad thing is, the nurse, I don't know if you know what they do, they have to reassemble the baby parts on a table in the surgery room to make sure that they got everything. As the nurse was doing this, she turned around and told the client, the patient, oh, by the way, you had twins. How many times has that happened? Who knows? But that story is, you know, it crushed her. You know, she already didn't really want the abortion, but now I had twins. So we're intervening for the mom and the baby. If a mom chooses life, we can help her with material assistance, clothing and diapers, parenting classes, all those things. Our parenting classes, we have a digital form so people don't have to attend. We can also email them the lessons. We've had, I don't remember what it was, somebody was taking those classes and she contacted us and said, hey, I've got like 198 baby bucks. When can I come in and spend them? So I don't think the educators or the volunteers or the staff had seen her since like she set up that I want parenting classes. And all of a sudden, I want to go shopping. Yes?
You, so like if you have a teenager, for example, that comes in, and do you ever counsel them or give them access to adoption?
Absolutely. Yes.
As a way of dealing with their situation?
Did you hear the question? Yes, absolutely. Adoption is always one of the options we want to share. Some women are not open to that. It's either a keep or kill situation. But every time we have the opportunity, yes, we share adoption. That was, again, as an adoptive dad, that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to the ministry. And we've changed actually over the years. We had an organization that was, kind of our go-to. And we always offer 3 because we never want to be prejudiced to one organization. But one organization that we had, it was kind of our go-to. It was in the neighborhood and all of that. And then a number of years ago, just 2-3 years ago, they determined that they were going to be opening for gay adoptions, and we thought we don't need that. That doesn't follow our godly principles, and that's not our goal. We want healthy families. That's what we're working with, parenting classes and things. We're working toward happy, whole, godly families, and that's not really our model. So we have 3 others that restrict that. So, yes.
I don't know if you can answer this, but so say a woman decides to go over to Illinois to have an abortion. When she goes into that office, what do they say? I mean, is there anything that prepares them for knowing what's going on? Or is it all like a happy picture? You know, it just is really frustrating because, I mean, you see moms that are pro-choice. It's just very, very, I don't know what the word is, but how can we have them realize that it's an ugly thing to happen to you?
That's a very good question. We know from videos that have been undercover videos of people that have gone to abortion clinics and Planned Parenthoods that they are coercive and they lie. I just recently heard a story that a woman went in, a young lady went in for an abortion, and the doctor refused to talk to her until she signed the papers that said, "I will have the abortion," and the check was handed over. So she couldn't even ask the doctor questions, and the nurse was evasive and saying things like, well, no, you can talk to the doctor about that, but she couldn't talk to the doctor about that. So yes, I believe they lie. We know it's been proven that Planned Parenthood is in the money market for money. They're making money. And just a question, now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and we're not going there quite yet, but I'll pose the question. Now that they've been overturned, do you know what's happened to the Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics in Wisconsin? They're shut down. Years ago, like 5, 10, 3 maybe, they said that abortion isn't their major, they were doing health care and mammograms and things. Why did they shut down if only 3% of their income has been taken away? Because they lied. Yep, they lied. Yes.
For your postpartum program, do you have connections for contraception to try and help prevent future pregnancies, especially for the moms that do complete the abortion?
Good question. I don't know that. I don't know that answer.
Repeat the question. Repeat the question, please.
My question was if they connected postpartum moms with contraception to try and prevent future pregnancies, especially for moms that have completed their abortion.
That's a good question. I'll try and find that out. If you would put your name on that list, I'll try and make sure I get back to you too. Okay. And I see my assistant Diane is already on it. She's going to make sure. I have great assistants, by the way. I'm an okay president. I'm a CEO, but my assistants make me look good, I think. Yes?
Yes, if you have a woman who is in an abusive or coercive relationship, either with a significant other or parent, do you provide them information on alternative housing or abuse counseling?
Yes, we do. We also, yes, we do. I don't know if you caught that. Sebastian, I'm hearing the clicking. Yes, we do, as much as we can, again. Some of them are not interested, and the story about victims don't know that they're victims and they keep going back kind of thing. So some of them will refuse it, but some of them will take it. We have referred moms to shelters, and The thing is that if a mom, there aren't a lot of shelters for pregnant moms. There's shelters for abused moms or moms with abused kids, but not just for children. So some of the homes would have to try and vet that and see if she's really being abused or whatever. So it would have to be before or more than just a fear of abuse. So coercion, I don't know. But yes, we offer housing and we've got a lot of resources and a large referral network for all sorts of things. And I think postpartum, but I'm not sure. We'll find out. Was there a question there?
I don't know if we're open to questions right now or not, but I do have a question. We talk a lot about the women. In the communities that I serve, over 60% of them are single parent households, and we're talking the moms and the aunties and the grandmas. What about the men? What kind of services do we have for men in this arena?
Great question. Great question. They are allowed to our parenting classes. When we started our parenting classes, we called it Loving Moms. It was cute, it was warm, fuzzy. And then we had a dad call up. I actually answered the phone that day. He was like, "Hey, I'm a dad, and I'd like to come and learn how to be a better dad, and I'd like to, earn bucks to get diapers and things. And can?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course we've got to get you in here." So we changed that name to Loving Parents. It's still warm and fuzzy, but not as warm as fuzzy. But we've got men who are coming. In our newsletters, we've had a few stories about some of the men. Of course, in their newsletters and on our website and everything, most of the people have names that are, what's that? Fictitious. Yes, fictitious names. Some of them have allowed us to share their stories, but yeah, so we have men in our parenting classes. We do have one male advocate who, if there's a man who needs counseling or something, he's on call. We want to grow that program because we know that having a solid dad in the family involved is key to a strong, healthy family. That's godly design. In just a minute. So in Scripture, one of our national affiliations, and you'll see that on the sheet if you want to look later, and I mean later, is CareNet. And Roland Warren is the president. And I think about 4 years ago maybe, COVID messed everything up in here. He started talking about how God gave Jesus an unplanned pregnancy to his mom, kind of, like poof, here, this is gonna happen to you, and you're not married, but I'm gonna provide a father figure and a dad for your son. Joseph, CareNet started the Joseph Project. That's something that we want to adopt. Get it? Yeah. So that the Joseph Project is something we want to work on because we want to be building more families and building more men up to be the leaders, not the jokes like you see on television and the people that get ridiculed because they're dysfunctional and can't do anything, the Homer Simpsons of the world. We want to help build stand-up men. Yes?
Maybe you're going to address this, so if you are later, then I'll just wait. But one of the things that we'd be hearing from the pro-choice crowd now with Roe v. Wade being reversed is that pro-lifers take the moral high ground, but once, what are we going to do with this proliferation of new children? And you can take the moral high ground, but how are you going to now shift to help these moms who are going to be bearing children who they normally would have, they at one time would have aborted? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's the argument. The argument is, yeah, you guys talk a good game, but now how are you going to shift things, or what strategies are you going to have? Could you address that?
Yes. Yes. I plan to, and I think that might be a really good segue into what we're going to talk about, the sheet. Don't look at it yet. Just wait. See, as a presenter, the fear is always, here's a handout, and then everybody's like this when I'm talking, and Pete, put that down. But I thought, I've got to get this handed out. I didn't want Diane handing it out to everybody afterwards. But so yeah, I believe that your series is evangelism in different circumstances or something like that. So how do we evangelize? I think I've shared that with you. We don't really evangelize when a mom comes in with a pregnancy because she's dealing with I've got this crisis. We're not going to shift her thinking to, oh, have you heard about Jesus? It's not a bad thing, but that's maybe not the moment. That's why we want to continue building those relationships. We want to offer her, come on back, we'll help you. And if they're in a coercive relationship, we want to see her more often. If we can have her come in for checkups, or check-ins, and how's it going, and reinforce that that we're here for you no matter what. And even if she decides to have an abortion, we're still here for her no matter what. Just like Jesus is always there for us, no matter what. Because we are righteous. This morning, good sermon, we're righteous. I already sinned since then. I'm sorry, Pastor. But I've already sinned since then. But Jesus is still there. My fortress is still there for me right now. Just like we are the hands and feet of Jesus at the pregnancy center, helping these moms. And right there, I'm going to put in an advertisement. If any of you want to consider helping or learning more, or volunteering, there's a volunteer handout and the tablet or the clipboard here. Put your name on here with your contact information, and we'll get back to you. We would love to have you come and volunteer. There's many ways of getting involved. But evangelizing, when we're parenting classes, every single parenting class, whether it's live or digital, has a gospel portion. So they're always hearing about Jesus, a little devotion or something. Post-abortion, like I said, we have the Bible-centered post-abortion class, but then we have the non-biblical that grows into where does hope and peace and comfort and healing really come from? And I think that's about it. Because material assistance here have some diapers. They're from Jesus. Maybe that's evangelism and material support. But so that's how we at Wells Lutherans for Life, the Pregnancy Center in Milwaukee, are evangelizing. So Roe v. Wade is overthrown. It was a surprise. I'll tell you that another pregnancy center friend and we did not hang our hat on the Supreme Court decision until we heard it. We thought and we prayed, is it a good thing that Roe v. Wade is overturned? I see a couple of heads nod. Absolutely. Now it goes to the states. Now each one of you has a vote in whether abortion is legal or not. And just an aside, we're not going to get into the whole voting thing, but vote, vote, vote. It's important. And you don't have to vote pro-life, but I do, and I'll admit that. I'm not a one-issue voter, but it's a litmus test. If there's a Democrat and a Libertarian and a Republican and they all are pro-life, I've got work to do. Now I have to figure out, but if somebody cannot value life, and this is my opinion, if somebody cannot value life, I don't think I can trust them on health care. I don't think I can trust them on education. So that's just my opinion. I'm not judging anybody. I know some deep-rooted people that just can't see that as a voting issue, and certainly not their litmus test. But voting is so important because that's how we will keep the shift going if we want to have a abortion-free society. But we have to be active now too. And Pastor, your question is, how can we not just stand on the high moral ground? How do we react? When the church was set up, what kind of a government did they have? The Roman government? Pardon? Authoritarian. Were they civic-minded, community-minded? When God set up his people of Israel, what kind of government was that? Theocratic. God said, you did. Did God take care of everything? Pretty much. He took care of everything, and he gave us laws, or gave them laws to do it. And one of the stories that always pops into my mind is the story of Ruth, and she went to glean. And the rule was they were supposed to leave leftovers, thank you, for the gleaners. Part of the government setup was to take care of the widows and the orphans, so a theocracy is kind of a God-centered government. Rome didn't do that. Rome didn't really care about all of that, I don't think. The church, you people, us, all of our churches, and even the non-WELS churches, we are the people to step off the moral high ground, step up to taking care of the orphans and the widows. So I'm challenging you now. What are you going to do at St. John's for the orphans and widows? So, Pastor, does that answer your question? Somewhat?
Yes, somewhat.
Somewhat.
I think here again, just that I would think that taking care of, not just telling women not to have an abortion, then bringing them to the understanding that this child is valued and important. Maybe you've already, I think you've already discussed this, the fact that then we need to move into a position of support so that they can continue on. It's not just abortion is bad, don't have one. Good, you had your baby, see you later.
Right. Absolutely. And that is what we do. We do continued support at the Pregnancy Center, and we are a church-based organization. So with your church support, and St. John's does support us, you do that, but I'm challenging you as members and as individuals to maybe get more involved in that compassion ministry, and we are a compassion ministry. So yes, and I just read something about this. I didn't include any of this really in my stuff, but I just read something about that argument, and I cited, or no, I didn't. If you want further information, you have to put your name on that list. I have a document that isn't ready yet, but I'm putting it together of pro-life resources, organizations and videos and things that will help you talk about this issue with people. If you know and are in the world and talking with people who are not pro-life, we need to be equipped for that. And we need to be equipped, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I've got to turn to this fairly soon. But we need to be equipped to speak a pro-life message to the world that we live in now. Question?
It kind of goes along with the question from the woman up front, as far as, the post-abortion information about contraception and things like that. I mean, do you find yourself at any point along the line, and maybe it's, I'll say, it's not really a dumb question, but, obviously abstinence as part of a, living a Christian life, and how do you, would that be the place to talk about it in that kind of a situation?
Great question. And yes, we do, and I totally missed our Healthy Choices program. I'm not sure if Healthy Choices has been here at St. John's. Oh yes, Keith. Healthy Choices is our abstinence program. It's a 4-day program with a parent night that talks to middle schoolers. That's all we have for now, but our director of that program is busy getting to schools and going to different schools with that 4-day program and a parent night. We do the parent night to help them take information and keep going so that the conversation doesn't stop after day 4 and the kids are like, oh, well, let's go back to video games and forget about what we just learned. We want the parents to continue that. She's working on developing more. But yes, abstinence is definitely part of our message. Because we figure if you're not married, you shouldn't be having sex. If you're married, we hope that you're having godly, blessings in your marriage. So those are the 2 points. Yes, the advocates do talk to clients about abstinence. It's on the intake form, things like that. So if they have a partner or if they're living together with somebody, I believe it's woven in with their chit chat. So I think I missed, yeah. So one of the arguments I saw recently, I think on Twitter, is if the pro-aborts are so eager to pin us down as pro-lifes, as like, well, why aren't you adopting more babies? The statistics say that pro-abortion or pro-life people are adopting more babies. They're having larger families. There's a guy I know, he's in a family, I believe, of 10 adoptive children. And he's the director of one of the organizations, the Radiance Foundation, a fabulous organization that is trying to change the attitudes online. And that's part of the information that I'll send you if you put your information down. But we need to kind of put it back on them. So if abortion isn't legal, then are you going to help too? How many of you pro-aborts are going to adopt and take care of children? We're doing our part, because by the vast majority, the pro-life community is, and Christian community is doing the compassion ministry and care for the babies and the widows. So, yes?
Has Lutherans for Life also had a outreach to churches, having an advocate in the churches, or something that is welcoming to a young person in a challenging situation?
Good question. Good question. She's leading me. That's my bride, leading me. That's in our need. So really quick, women, now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, women are finding themselves more in a crisis. In Wisconsin, we're abortion free. Our abortion clinics have shut down. I've just found out that one is for sale, the building is for sale. You've probably heard that companies are paying for women to fly or drive to abortion states. So I have a little quote here. I have to read it because I don't remember it. But this was a Twitter response to that, to Walmart now saying that they're going to pay for travel fees for their employees to go have an abortion. If a person needs help to raise money for a house, expensive but necessary dental surgery, I added EpiPen, because I'm not sure if they're covered or if health care covers them or not, or further education, our wealthy employers will not lift a finger to help us. But when they are all eager to give is plenty of money for abortions. So isn't that interesting? These companies, I don't know how many now are just going to pay. Google, I believe, and I think I heard Tesla and a number of other large organizations, businesses are paying for abortion or paying to travel for their workers. So I'm kind of zigzagging, so I apologize. But yeah, we as a Christian community still need to continue the compassion ministry of stepping up. So I'm gonna take my wife's cue and start wrapping it up a little bit. There are 3 things you can do here at St. John's. First of all, pray. Encourage your pastor to pray corporately, and you know what that means, in church at the altar. Pray for abortion, for the women who are victims, for the babies who are victims or going to be victims, and for the men to step up. Pray, 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 pray. Volunteer. I mentioned that. There's a brochure here. Not one enough for everybody, but I can send more too. Volunteer. We need your help. We have more compassion to give, and you can help us do that. And then, as my wife suggested, there's a program called Making Life Disciples, which is it's actually injecting leaders in your church to be standing at the door or watching, observing for young moms who have children or are pregnant, and they might be a first-time visitor. When somebody like that if they would happen to stumble into your church, would there be somebody there other than the pastor to say, hey, how are you? Welcome to St. John's. What can we do to help you? Or sit by me instead of, what does she do? Oh, good morning. Go worship in there. So Making Life Disciples is a program that is really for the church to be able to build a little community of a couple of couples or a small group that wants to be that bunch of advocates to be able to reach out. And then you may be the first person to see that pregnant mom. She might not call us, but you could lead her to us then. You could give, hey, I know of a place that can help you. Here's the number and name. So Making Life Disciples, and that's going to be on that informational sheet too of what I'm going to send out. So let's turn for the last 10 minutes, or 15 because we started 5 minutes late, I think. Right, Sebastian? Let's turn to keeping the main thing the main thing. And I'm going to read through this, which is really boring for a presenter to do, but I don't have it on up there, so it's not going to be quite as bad. But this was distilled. I listened to a video from Dr. John Parlow, response to Roe v. Wade. You can find the link on the bottom of the page, but he talked very nicely about a woman should have a choice in many things, but what about abortion? Is that acceptable? Abortion is acceptable if the unborn are not human beings. When discussing abortion, always keep the main thing the main thing. When we say abortion, we mean specifically elective abortion. The pro-life premise is it is wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings. And number two, abortion intentionally kills innocent human beings. Therefore, the conclusion is abortion is morally wrong. Science shows the unborn is a distinct, living, and whole human being. Philosophy demonstrates there is no relevant difference between you, the embryo, and you, the adult, that justifies killing you at the earlier stage of development. Differences in size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependency are not good reasons for saying you could be killed then. But now, not now. You could be killed then, but not now. Respectfully ask those who hold opposing views how their objection prove that the unborn are not human or that intentionally killing them is okay. When you have a chance to engage in meaningful conversation with those who hold opposing views, and that's what the video is encouraging and that's what I'm encouraging, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, as James tells us. Listen intently and seek to understand. Always speak the truth in love. Memorize the pro-life rationale, and that's where the further information that I don't have ready for this morning comes. Memorize the pro-life rationale. Practice it out loud with friends. Even talk about it. Have dinner parties and talk about it with your friends. Share it as if lives hang in the balance, because they do. Make the opportunity to talk about grace with those who hold opposing views. Pray for people on both sides of the argument, because the people on the other side, many of them are just confused. And from certain videos, you'll see that people will say, oh yeah, I think it's a woman's choice, or I think it should be legal. Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't tell anybody else not to. And then they'll see videos of the abortion procedure, not graphic videos, but a demonstration, kind of a cartoon animated of an abortion procedure, and they're just disgusted and appalled and like, that's barbaric, I didn't know that happens. So a lot of people are just confused by the culture and the world and the media. So pray for people on both sides of the argument. As you respectfully offer logical counter-arguments, look for opportunities to share how God's grace in Jesus leads us to support the pro-life cause. And then on the flip side, I'm not gonna go through this whole thing, but I'll hit the top parts and then we can just have questions and if you want. But this is discussing elective abortion, common arguments you may hear or face. And some of these have always been around, but some of these have percolated to the top now again with Roe v. Wade being overturned. And you'll see there's a quote there from Secular Pro-Life, one of the organizations that I follow on Twitter. "We must be principled. We are right. We have science on our side." And I would add, we have God on our side, and Scripture, who also says that we are conceived in sin. We know that from the moment of conception, that's a human being. If the exchange of ideas is truly open, we can win. That's a secular person saying. Stooping to their level by relying on censorship is unacceptable. So, the question is, or the argument is, abortion isn't mentioned in the Bible. And that's true. It's not. You could search Bible Gateway for abortion, and you're not going to find abortion in the Bible, not in any version of the Bible. But nothing in the Bible justifies killing babies in abortion. Then there's the religion as an argument, and you'll find that when you're talking about somebody and you're using science and they're an opponent, they'll say, yeah, but you're just saying it because you're religious, or you think God, well, you're the one that brought it up, not me. You know, I'm not using religion or God as the argument. The health of the mother. Many pro-abortion advocates raise the question of abortion in the case of the health of the mother. The vast majority of abortions are done simply for convenience, as birth control, due to financial concerns and other outside pressures. And the three big ones there are ectopic pregnancy, miscarriage, and rape. And those have really percolated to the top now that Roe v. Wade is overturned, because those very small percentages, the cases of abortion and rape are less than 1% of all of the abortions. A miscarriage is a spontaneous abortion. It is not an abortion. It is an act of removing what is not good from a woman anymore. And I'll let that thing, the medically thing, tell you. And ectopic pregnancy also is not an abortion. That is truly the health of the mother. Because the ectopic pregnancy will not develop into a fully viable baby, and it will destruct, and that destruction may very well destroy the mom, kill the mom. So ectopic pregnancy is not. So that is truly health of the mother. But the arguments are that now that Roe v. Wade is illegal, you're not going to, people can't get treatment for ectopic pregnancy, or people can't get treatment for miscarriages. And then the other one is rape. What about rape? And I've had conversations about that. So one of the quotes that I found was, "What do you call children conceived in rape?" Children. And this one I'm going to talk on just because I've had more of but should be a woman's choice is the constant argument. For cases of rape, the argument goes that in the rape scenario, personal choice trumps the life of the mother, for whatever reason. No matter what, it's her choice. And I'll tell you, the guy I know who is the head of the Radiance Foundation, he is the product of rape, and he was adopted. And I've argued, well, what about Ryan? What about, does his life not matter? Well, it was his mother's choice. She chose to give him life. She didn't have to. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. What about his beautiful wife and his beautiful children? It doesn't, it was her choice. and that just doesn't make sense. So the argument doesn't stand up if someone's choice is the individual human being's right. If choice can be exercised over another person, as a mother's choice to end the life of her baby in the womb, then can the rapist's choice be his choice? Would that be justifiable? Well, he just wanted to, express himself sexually.
He can continue to do that for the rest of his life in jail.
Yeah, but doesn't that the argument track, well, if mom can kill the baby, but the point is, or the thing is, in a rape scenario, the rapist, did he do something wrong?
Absolutely.
Is he a criminal?
Yes.
Should he be,
Incarcerated.
yes,
All of the above.
something? The mom, is she to blame?
No.
Did she do something wrong?
Never.
Should she be incarcerated or something? The baby, a result of that, did something wrong? Should the baby get the death penalty for the father's sin? No, absolutely not. 3 distinct human beings, all different scenarios. And then there's the 2 arguments, you're not pro-life, just pro-birth, and Pastor, make sure Pastor gets this. That might answer his question, because he's already gone preparing for next service. Abortion bans are about men making laws to control women's bodies. So those are the arguments, some of the major arguments that you'll find in social media, and the mass media will also be proliferating these arguments. So I encourage you to bone up, learn, put your name and address, email address down so I can send you the document with all the resources. And it's 1:15 right now. Any questions?
It's a comment followed by a question. I feel like there's so much pressure and guilt on women about everything that they do related to getting pregnant, being pregnant, and so on. I just wish that there was a fraction of that pressure on the men as more than just contributors to a sperm. And we do need laws in place to make sure there's responsibility and accountability for that kind of thing. And we need to raise our sons and our young men to recognize the responsibility of behaviors that lead to pregnancies in children and so on, and how this is not just a one-time thing, but it's a life commitment. So we definitely need things in place. And so the question that I have for you is, are you offering referrals for vasectomies for the, this is not funny, because you'll be next. For the men who are involved in these programs and so on.
I don't think we go there. I'm not sure.
And
But
is there a reason? Is there a spiritual reason not to? Or, I mean, because a lot of people say, well, that costs money. Well, a child, I mean, in the news, we saw that the current cost of raising a child, however that's calculated, is $20,000 a year for one child now in this country. And that's a lot. So, I think that we definitely need that in place for the sperm contributors.
Yep. Any other questions right now? If not, I thank you for your attention. I thank you for not picking this up and reading while I was talking. Pete.
If you're looking for a place to send your donation dollars, there's not a finer group than Lutherans for Life.
Thank you.